Now, new NHS figures revealed by the Labour Party show that 42% of patients are waiting up to 6 months to see a cancer doctor.
That's terrible. Of course, the strikes aren't going to help, Bev, are they? No. The figures also show some patients waiting up to 9 months for a test or scan and 2 years for a diagnosis.
Let's hear more from Olivia Parry. She's a nutritionist and cancer survivor. Good morning, Olivia. Just give us, if you don't mind, a little potted history of your personal journey with cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was when I was 35. I'd had no symptoms at all, and the screening process caught up with me. So I went in for it's called colposcopy, where they put a camera and they have a closer look, and immediately they saw that there was something wrong. So the next morning at 7:30, I went in to have a biopsy, and I woke up 5 days later in intensive care being told I was really lucky to be alive. I'd had a massive hemorrhage and major surgery. So basically, it completely came out of the blue. I had no symptoms whatsoever, and the NHS saved my life, and I'll be forever grateful to them.
And how long ago was that, Olivia?
That was 16 years ago. So yes, I was 35 and I'm now 52. So, health is so important. And I think, sometimes we take for granted just how much the NHS does. And yes, this story is very pertinent to me, because there was a girl who was having treatment at the same time as me, and she was only 29, and she was misdiagnosed, and it was too late. I mean, mine was stage 1B, so it hadn't actually spread, which is easier to treat, and hers had spread. So, it really didn't work for her. So, yeah.
Olivia, if these shocking figures, which we're seeing now, 6 months wait, if that had been the case for your time 16 years ago, putting it brutally, you probably wouldn't be with us anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. But on that, I mean, on the story, and clearly the figures are right, but I actually have a friend who had a blood test, and within 2 weeks they've seen a specialist and they've got a scan fixed up. So, I'm sure there are lots of cases where cancer treatment has been delayed, but there are also plenty of stories where it has worked. So let's not forget how wonderful they are.
I think it's often a postcode lottery, Olivia. It depends where you are, which particular NHS trust.
Yeah, but basically for me, the reason I set up my business as a nutritionist and a health coach is to help people get a healthy weight. The consultant said to me, the reason you survived that trauma, the hemorrhage and all of that, was because you were slim and fit. And sadly, 2/3 of the population are now overweight or have obesity. So it's a real risk to cancer. So people can, there's a lot that they can do getting help to get to a healthy weight and reduce the burden on the NHS.
What this inevitably means now, Olivia, these wait times of 6 months or more for cancer treatment, is that those who can afford it will go and find private doctors to treat them. Do you see that we're now getting a health system which is very much two-tier?
I think you had a professor on in one of the earlier programmes saying that the NHS is nowhere near what it was in 1948, and he's absolutely true. He's absolutely right. But things like cancer and heart disease, I mean, I do have private healthcare, but the doctors didn't even want me to use it. They said, you'll be much safer in the main hospital. We've got an eye on you. You've got a history. Private healthcare tends to treat things like, hips and knees and those kind of joint issues that, it's not urgent. But I really think the NHS, they're there for us in times of need for cancer and heart disease. So I really think there needs to be a major overhaul. I mean, I've commented up to your wonderful programme before on many health issues, and the nurses, I totally support. They need a better terms and conditions.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not just throwing more money at them. It all needs to be changed, overhauled, to bring it up to the modern day. But the fact is, when we had a pandemic, they found the money, the government found the money, so it can be done.
Yeah. OK, thank you, Olivia. And congratulations on staying well. Olivia Parry there.
It's great.
She looks great, doesn't she?
It really does.
You know, if one of my family had cancer, you would just throw what you could at it, wouldn't you?
Anything. And of course, Olivia's saying
Wait
about
6 months.
we're not the NHS, we were in 1948. Of course, in 1948, people didn't survive cancer.
That's right. And we didn't have the obesity epidemic.
And we
that
didn't.
have
And
now.
people didn't live to 80. What is the average age now? 82 or something like that.
yeah.
I mean, people died much younger. My grandmother had cancer when I was a junior school boy. I mean, it was incurable. That was
Yeah.
what it was in the 60s.
Yeah. Times have changed, and yet the NHS doesn't seem to have moved on with it.